Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Give me 1 second here. Oh my goodness, where is that remote? I've got my Christmas lights here. Can I turn it off manually? That'll have to do. Everybody, I hope you're having a great evening, a wonderful week. We're in the Christmas season. And even though it might not be a part of your culture, if you live in North America, it's really funny. We have this Middle Eastern restaurant, very ethnic restaurant just down the street, and they have these great big lighted Christmas trees in their windows. And I think this is just so amazing, that the Muslims, they celebrate, even though it's not their part of their culture, they celebrate it because they understand it is a celebration of connection, of the closeness to the people that we care for. It is in that union, that reminder that we are connected, that we're all connected. And, you see this all over the place. And I just really think it's amazing how we are breaking down some of these. How many generations of racism and belittling people, holding people under our thumbs, that we all should be able to have an equal shot at whatever we want to create in fair sportsmanship, right? This is why I love entrepreneurship so much, because they can actually take the credit, not just the blame for what goes wrong, but the credit for the inventiveness, the creativeness, the effort, right? How hard they work. And, there's a lot of respect in that. And, to each one of us, we get to decide what we want to contribute, right? Not just in our own lives, but in the lives of the people that we surround ourselves with. And, that's how we learn these mannerisms, these sets of foundations of values, to eliminate some of these ridiculous ideas about one person being better than another, right? That, each one of us should have that fair share shot, right? I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of class. When I delved into the topic of class, I know in India they use it, that in their systems it seems to work, and people don't seem too far put off by the system. But when I look at it, I think, that people are not getting a fair share or a fair shot at creating something more magnificent for themselves. And yes, maybe they can create something magnificent for themselves, but it doesn't change their status. It doesn't change their class they're in. Now, I'm not a big expert on it. I do a little bit of Googling and pick up some information here and there. But, that idea of putting people under their thumb, that rulership, do as I say, not as I do, right? That, why do we have to do this? Why do I have to marry this person? Because I said so, right? And not have clear and decisive answers that are beneficial, right? That are beneficial, and not just do it out of desperation, or, right, to make ourselves look better, right? That hierarchy, that even if you are in the lowest of lows of class, there's even a hierarchy in that too, right? That's why one of the many reasons why I love entrepreneurs, right? Because it is in your own steam that you get to dictate whether, you are the expert in your field, if you're the best of the best, if you're the king of your castle, right? But at the same time, in going for that, if you fail in that, we have to respect in that criticism that, right, we're going to be put in our places in that, and it's whether or not we have that courage and that gumption to take that, right? Because we all have a little bit of pride in us, and it's just a matter of picking ourselves up and trying again and looking at it as experience. Don't look at it as a failure or something to be guilty, right, or shameful for, because there are people out there who aren't even trying. And there are lots of good things. I'm not sure. I'm always on that back and forth on the fence as to why I sit with the entrepreneurs. Especially when I'm 64 years old. I'm going into retirement next year, but your heart is where your heart is. And when I see the benefits for the highly sensitives and the empaths in being entrepreneurs, because our systems don't handle criticism. We don't handle the side eyes and the the backstabbing and the background chatter and the looks of when we do fail in that practicing and making some movement towards whatever goal or whatever dream that we're chasing down. I really do think that, that highly sensitives and empaths being their own bosses, yes, it's stressful because you're your own boss, but at the same token, right? Nobody's going to yell at you. Nobody's, right, unless you totally fail and go bankrupt and you have to hear from your wife and your mother about losing all that, and that happens too. But in that process, you have to expect that these are feelings you don't want to feel very often, but you do have to have those humiliating, put in your place kind of feelings, so that you can understand how terrible that feeling feels, so that you try really hard not to put yourself in that position again, to get those, right, that feedback, those feelings. And even for myself, I was actually thinking today, about some of the things that I knew I had to do. I knew it was part of the process, that that I had to find a way. But in looking back at it today, my question to myself was, how graceful was I in that? How kind was I in making my movement? How was considerate in the other parties and the other situations that I was in? Maybe not even having the answers to that at the time, but just reflecting in how I acted, how I presented myself in the process. And, I don't think there is any right and wrong in how it shows up. But the idea is to eliminate as much of that uncomfortables. One of those reasons why I think empaths and highly sensitive should be entrepreneurs, should be working for themselves and not working for others. It's because, that sense of pride, right? That's your baby. This is my channel. If nothing else, I have this, right? And you know it's that sense of pride that if it fails or it succeeds, it's all on me, in my actions, in my decision making, and in that effort that I want to put into it, right? And each one of us gets to make those choices. And that's the thing, highly sensitives and empaths, we're hard workers, but we've never worked for ourselves. In fact, we've never really given any consideration to ourselves when it came to, right, taking the best out of life. I did a little bit, not understanding what I was doing, but despite whatever, I was going to make the best life for myself as I possibly could. Not understanding that maybe that was the in, right? To get into the party, to have that invitation offered just to make a little bit of more movement, considering I had that little bit of information and that little bit of standing in my movement to start with. It's about taking that first step and just trusting that, that second step won't be as hard. Just one foot in front of the other. And to each one of us our choices. But there are a lot of people, out there and working hard and falling backwards and making mistakes and giving up for a little bit and then starting up again and then giving them everything you've got and then failing or being disappointed in that again. It's one thing that I, right, happened on to some amazing mentorship, some amazing people who really knew what the process was. And, I understood, if nothing else, and there were lots of times that I didn't feel like moving, that my whole life around me was just crashing and everything, but I held on. Somehow I held on, and I never failed myself in showing up. Now, it looked different, right? It had to look different. It had to adopt and conquer. I had to adapt and conquer, but I did. And 11 years later, I'm still here, and I can't even count on one hand how many times my channel should have crashed and I didn't even get close to it. I never I never gave a thought to it. I don't think in the entire time, right? Especially when I've been consistent in my lives and stuff, I don't think other than September when I go for my trips have I ever missed a week, right? Very rarely did I even miss a day during the week. And that's something to be proud of, right? And that's what we need in our lives, at those moments where we can feel pride, because we grow up so often feeling not much pride, right? Not like we have much to contribute, and we don't feel that we can have anything to say, or anybody would even want to hear what we have to say. And it's up for us, and that is in our choices. And you just get better and better and better if you just keep showing up. And that comes from the consistency, at the very least, not giving up. Just keep going and understanding every time you fall on your face. That's a lesson, because you don't want to fall on your face too much. And every time you fall on your face, you're more frustrated. You're just, next time, I'm not falling on my face, until eventually you've got that down pat and you don't fall on your face anymore. And then, that's something to celebrate, because that's a lesson you don't have to take anymore. We always practice the craft and we stay in shape in what we pick up along the way, but it's not something we're going to have confusion about. It's not something that we're going to question because, right, we've got that down pat. We can whip that out, right? High noon, really, really fast. Okay, you guys, I don't know where that came from. As usual, I'll come back and see if it's for me. There's always something in there for me. But I'll pop back in. You know, uh, this week has been a really roller coastery kind of week for me. I really been taking a look at my responsibilities, and like I said earlier, I take a look at those outs in those relationships and those experiences, and how I made my little bit of movement. Either I moved away or came forward. That how did I handle myself in that? Did I have to handle myself in that? Was there a little bit of kindness and those little bit of experiences that might not have been so pleasant in some of those relationships that I knew in, I am who I surround myself with, and they are around who they surround themselves with. They are those people too, and each one of us have got to consider us for ourselves where we're going to apply our time and who we're going to apply our time with, right? Because that's what we're rubbing up against. And so it makes me understand too why I spend so much time on my own, right? Because I don't know anybody, right? Besides the people who are online and teaching their stuff, right? And they're doing so amazing. Oh my goodness. Some of these people out there that I can just sit there and just listen to them, and I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness, Cindy, that's what you want. That's what you want to do? Oh my goodness. There's going to be a few wipeouts, right? After that. But I trust that I'm just going to pick myself up, brush my legs off, and I'm going to try again, knowing that if I don't give up, if I just keep trying, 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 and even if I fail 100 times, eventually I'll get it right and I'll have that lesson down packed and I won't have to take that lesson anymore. And that's how it works. And those lessons are different for each one of us considering our experiences in life. And that's the truth. What might be a huge lesson for me might be nothing for you. And that horrible, horrible thing that you have difficulties in accomplishing or doing, right? That might seem like nothing to me. And we have to give each other that respect, right? Because we don't know the other person's experiences in life, and it always affects, right, what we're trying to do in the moment, especially when we're trying to do something that's very, very scary for us, right? But in that practicing, eventually we'll get it right. And that's the truth. Never give up, if nothing else. Just baby steps, the teeniest, teeniest, teeniest amount of movement, and right, things happen. Okay, you guys, let's just grab a card here. We're just going to go into it for a couple of minutes. We're going to start the weekend. I don't do What's My Good Cheer is a Monday to Friday show, so I take the weekend off. I come back Sunday night, but I come Sunday night in a different show, but you're welcome to come and hang with us. Chatters Live. The topic is light. It's about community, and I have an amazing community. They chat more than I do, so if you want to pop in and hang out with us, you are more than welcome to. Also, I should let you know I community post today, and just to let people know that my annual Christmas party that I do on Christmas Eve, I've been doing it for years and years, where it's just a small group. We get together on Christmas Eve. Lots of us, we don't make Christmas a big deal. Lots of us, we don't have friends and family, but we still want to celebrate in those traditions. So we get together every year, and if you want to come and hang out with us on Christmas Eve, 7:30 Central, I'll be here. We usually do it at 7, but because my sister is still recovering from her heart bypass, we're all going to meet at her house today. And by the time we get the house clean and everything, I still got to walk home and stuff. So I want to make sure that I have a little bit of time for that too. So 7:30 Central, Christmas Eve. If you want to come and hang out, it's a good time. It's always a good time. Okay, you guys, here we go. First perspective, first thing that comes to my mind, we just go into it for a couple of minutes. Okay, here we go. Oh, here's a good one. I haven't had this card. I haven't pulled this card yet. I've lots of cards in my deck I haven't pulled. Lots of cards in this deck, or a few cards in this deck I've pulled many, many, many times. Okay. Learning is the process that prepares us for the future. You guys have been hanging out with me for any length of time. You know I'm a big history buff. I love delving into history and different aspects and different stages of my life. It started out as a little kid, I loved dinosaurs. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was, oh my goodness, I think I was in grade 1, and I had already decided I was going to be an archaeologist. Didn't quite work out for me, but the passion was still there, and that being a little bit of a history buff, that it fueled the fire to always keep it close to me, right? But it started with dinosaurs. By the time I hit high school, yeah, I was all about Egypt. Oh my goodness. Oh, before Egypt, it was Scotland. It was ancient Scotland, all the castles and stuff and the clans. And but then after that, I went right into Egypt, and then I discovered, oh my goodness, I don't want to be an archaeologist. I want to be an Egyptologist. But because I never followed my passion when it came to school and stuff, I never came to realize that really the class of interest that I had was actually anthropology, archaeological anthropology, social anthropology, because it was how humans interacted with each other. That's what fascinated me. And we're talking going all the way back to the Neanderthals and the Denisovans and the Homo erectus, and just to be able to put myself in somebody else's shoes, going back tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. And even, those discoveries of prehistoric animals in the glaciers. And oh my goodness, I find it all so fascinating, that learning in history. As I became more mature, I had an attachment to Mother Nature, this understanding of how exhausted Mother Nature, when I came out of Mother Nature, whether it's walking in the forest or going to the park or sitting under a tree or going swimming or tubing in a river, it was so exhausting. It took everything out of me. But after a good sleepy, how magnificent I felt, that it felt like that idea that I have, you got to make a mess to clean a mess. I felt that same way about nature, that it sucks everything out of you, so it breathes in the dioxide, right? But it spews out the oxygen, right? It gave me what I needed. And so this passion for Mother Nature attached attached itself to my life. And so now, I have other aspects of interests. And you can think that they're goals and dreams, because in the moment they were goals and dreams, but they were unaccomplished goals and dreams, right? And then at that point, they become interests, right? And if you're lucky, they become hobbies. And I am very grateful that, history has become a passion for me, and Mother Nature has become a passion for me, and it's provided content for my brand. It's helped me to understand my own evolution, right? Because I do believe we are in the process of a point in actual evolution that we are about to pivot. We are about to be redirected in the course of our directions of each one of us, and how we're going to live and how we're going to perceive life, right? And also how we're going to maybe, possibly, better interact with people who are so different. I think we're coming out of that tolerance stage. We're coming in to the acceptance stage. But wouldn't it be amazing that we don't even have to give it labels? We don't have to give it stages, because it's not something to consider. It's just life and people, right? And those things that we differentiate each other by are no longer pertinent, right? And we're getting there. We just don't see it. We just don't have the imagination to see the possibilities. We only see where we're at in the moment. But you could say it's only because we haven't learned, but I think a lot of it is in time, in being the evidence for each other, right? Because we are who we surround ourselves with. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could just have we're talking about this yesterday, those common sets of values that makes it possible, right? That we're able to create these magnificent lives for ourselves, right? And not have it impact other people's lives and in what they're doing. And I think, right, we're getting and moving into a world that's making allowance for that. And, time is one thing, but that learning, right? We can't just sit there and wait for stuff to happen. We have to make that movement ourselves, right? Baby steps. Just start making that movement, and things will just unfold the way that they're supposed to unfold. Learning is the process that prepares us for the future. Okay, you guys, that's my good chair. We'll see you Monday. If you don't pop in and hang out with us on Sunday night, you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.